My friend's insane husband got too close, and I couldn't stop thinking about him after that. There are some moments that divide your life into before and after. Moments so charged, so unexpected, that they fundamentally alter how you see yourself and the people around you. For me, that moment happened on a Tuesday night in my best friend's kitchen, when her husband stood too close and said something that made my entire world tilt on its axis. It lasted maybe 90 seconds. Just a brief conversation while my friend was upstairs putting her kids to bed. Nothing physical happened. No kiss, no touch beyond what you could explain away as accidental. Just words, proximity, and an intensity that I felt in every cell of my body. After that night, I couldn't look at him the same way, couldn't look at my friend the same way, couldn't look at myself the same way, because the man who stood too close was Damien, my best friend's unpredictable, intense, slightly unhinged husband, the man I should have been able to categorize as off-limits and never think about again. But I couldn't stop thinking about him, about that moment, about what it meant that my heart raced when he looked at me, about the guilt that twisted my stomach every time I saw him with Emma, laughing at something he said while I wondered if he was thinking about me too. This is the story of how a 90-second moment destroyed my peace, tested my loyalty, and forced me to confront desires I never knew I had. But before we dive into this complicated and emotionally intense story, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these raw, honest confessions. And if this content resonates with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who understands that forbidden feelings don't make you a bad person. What you do with them does. Your support means everything. Now, let's get into what happened that night. Part 1. The Unpredictable Man. My name is Olivia, and Emma Chen has been my best friend since we were roommates in college 12 years ago. We've been through everything together: bad breakups, career changes, family drama, the evolution from wild 20-somethings to responsible adults with mortgages and retirement accounts. Emma met Damien 5 years ago at a rock climbing gym. She'd taken up climbing as a way to challenge herself, and Damien was an instructor there. All lean muscle and confident energy. The kind of person who scaled vertical walls like gravity was optional. "He's intense," Emma told me after their first date, her eyes sparkling with that new love glow. "Like, maybe too intense? He wants to go skydiving next weekend. I've never even been on a roller coaster without getting sick." "And you're going?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "I think I have to," she said. "He makes me want to be braver, bigger, more alive." Damien was everything Emma wasn't. Where she was cautious and planned, he was spontaneous and wild. Where she followed rules, he questioned them. Where she stayed comfortable, he pushed boundaries, sometimes recklessly. Insane was the word we'd use about him, but always affectionately. Insane in a fun way. Insane in an of course Damien organized a midnight hike to watch the meteor shower way. Insane in a Damien decided to learn parkour and now he jumps off buildings for fun way. He was the kind of person who made life an adventure, who turned boring dinner parties into memorable nights, who looked at obstacles and saw challenges to overcome rather than reasons to give up. Emma married him after 2 years, and I was maid of honor at a wedding that perfectly captured their dynamic. Emma's careful planning meeting, Damien's spontaneous joy, traditional ceremony, unconventional reception featuring fire dancers, and a band Damien knew from some underground music scene. I liked Damien. Everyone liked Damien. He was magnetic, charming, impossible to ignore. He remembered details about your life and asked follow-up questions. He made you feel seen in a way that was both flattering and slightly overwhelming. But I never thought of him as anything other than Emma's husband. He was attractive, sure. Tall, dark hair always slightly too long, sharp features, and gray-green eyes that seemed to see right through you. But he belonged to Emma. That put him in the absolutely off-limits category where he should have stayed forever. For 5 years, that's exactly where he stayed. I saw Damien and Emma together at least twice a month. Dinner parties, game nights, the occasional group trip. Damien was friendly, appropriate, exactly what you'd expect from your best friend's husband. Until 6 weeks ago when something shifted. It started small, a look that lasted a beat too long across the dinner table. A comment about a book I'd mentioned that showed he'd been paying attention more carefully than necessary. His hand brushing mine when we both reached for the wine bottle, lingering just a fraction of a second longer than accidental. Nothing overt, nothing I could point to as evidence of anything wrong. Just a low hum of awareness that hadn't been there before. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was projecting because I'd been single for 8 months and was starved for male attention, that Damien was just being friendly and I was reading too much into normal interactions. But then came that Tuesday night, the night everything changed. Part 2. The moment Emma had invited me over for dinner. Nothing formal, just pizza and catching up. She'd recently gone back to work after maternity leave with their second kid, and we'd barely seen each other in months. I arrived at 7 to their suburban house, the kind of place that screamed young family. Toys scattered across the lawn, a minivan in the driveway, the sound of children's laughter floating through open windows. Emma answered the door with her 4-year-old daughter Maya attached to her leg. "Thank God you're here. I'm drowning. Damien's allegedly helping, but he's been in the garage organizing for an hour." Translation? Hiding from the chaos? I grinned. "Absolutely." Emma rolled her eyes affectionately. "Can you watch the kids for like 10 minutes? I need to get them ready for bed and then we can actually talk like humans." "Of course." Emma disappeared upstairs with both kids while I went to the kitchen to pour wine. That's where Damien found me. He appeared in the doorway, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. "Hiding from the chaos?" he asked, echoing Emma's words with a knowing smile. "Just getting wine. Want some? Please." He moved into the kitchen, and I was suddenly very aware of the space, or lack of it. The kitchen wasn't small, but Damien had a way of filling rooms, making them feel more intimate than they actually were. I poured 2 glasses, handed him one. Our fingers brushed. That same electric awareness from recent weeks hummed between us. "Emma says you've been organizing the garage," I said, making normal conversation. "Find anything interesting?" "Just old climbing gear." Made me nostalgic for when life was simpler, before mortgages and car seats and... He trailed off, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Before responsibility?" I offered. "Before I had things to lose," Damien said quietly. The way he said it felt weighted, like he was talking about more than garage organization. Upstairs I could hear Emma reading to the kids, her voice carrying through the old house's thin walls. Down here it was just me and Damien, standing in the kitchen with wine glasses between us like a fragile barrier. "Liv," Damien said, and something in his tone made my breath catch. He never called me Liv, always Olivia, formal and appropriate. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I managed. He set down his wine glass, took a step closer. We were maybe 2 feet apart now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something cedar and clean that I'd noticed before but never quite registered. "Do you feel it?" His voice was low, intimate. "This thing between us? Or am I losing my mind?" My heart stopped. Started again. Too fast. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Another step closer. "You've felt it too. The past few weeks. Every time we're in the same room. Every time I look at you and you look away just a little too quickly." "Damien." I didn't know how to finish that sentence. Didn't know if I was about to deny it or confirm it. "Tell me I'm crazy," he said, and we were so close now that I could see gold flecks in his eyes. "Tell me you haven't thought about this. About us. About what it would be like if things were different." I should have stepped back. Should have said of course he was crazy, that I'd never thought about him that way. That he was married to my best friend and this conversation couldn't happen. But I didn't. I stood frozen, my pulse hammering, while Damien looked at me with an intensity that made my skin feel too tight. "I think about you," he whispered. "Constantly. When I'm with Emma, when I'm at work, when I'm lying awake at night. I think about the way you laugh at my jokes, the way you actually listen when I talk about things that matter, the way you see me, not the wild guy who takes crazy risks, but the person underneath who's just trying to figure out what it all means." "This is wrong," I heard myself say. But my voice was shaky, unconvincing even to my own ears. "I know," Damien agreed. "It's completely wrong. It's insane. But that doesn't make it not real. Doesn't make me stop wanting." "Mommy says 10 more minutes." Maya's voice carried down from upstairs, cutting through whatever Damien had been about to say. We both jumped back like we'd been burned. Suddenly, there was appropriate distance between us again. Suddenly, we were just two people holding wine glasses in a kitchen. But everything had changed. "I should check on them," Damien said, his voice rough. He didn't meet my eyes as he left the kitchen. I stood there alone, my hands shaking so badly I had to set down my wine glass before I dropped it. What had just happened? Had Damien just confessed feelings for me? Had I just stood there and not shut it down immediately? What did that make me? The answer to that last question made me feel sick. It made me a terrible friend. It made me someone who'd entertained, even for a moment, the idea of wanting her best friend's husband. I should have left. Should have invented an excuse and gone home and never come back. Should have created distance and told Emma everything and let the chips fall where they may. But I didn't. When Emma came downstairs 20 minutes later, I was still there, pretending everything was normal, eating pizza and laughing at her work stories while Damien sat across the table, his eyes meeting mine in moments Emma didn't notice. And when I finally went home at 10, I lay in bed replaying every word of that conversation, every moment of proximity, every second of that charged 90 seconds that had rewritten everything. I told myself I'd never think about it again, that it was a moment of weakness, a brief insanity, something to be forgotten and moved past. I told myself a lot of lies that night, because the truth was I couldn't stop thinking about him, about what he'd said, about the way he'd looked at me, about how my body had responded to his proximity, and that truth made me hate myself. Part 3. The spiral. The next 3 weeks were torture. Emma texted constantly, wanting to hang out, to catch up, to maintain our normal best friend routine, and I made excuses, work deadlines, not feeling well, vague plans I couldn't cancel, because the thought of seeing Damien again terrified me. Terrified me because I didn't trust myself, didn't trust that I could look at him and not remember, not want, not wonder what would have happened if Maya hadn't interrupted, if that moment had stretched just a few seconds longer. I was obsessed in the worst way. Damien invaded my thoughts constantly. I'd be at work and suddenly remember the way his voice dropped when he said my name. I'd be grocery shopping and catch a whiff of cedar cologne that reminded me of standing too close to him. I'd lie in bed and replay the conversation over and over, analyzing every word, every look, every heartbeat of that encounter. I was acting like a lovesick teenager. Worse, I was acting like someone having an emotional affair. And the most damning part? Nothing had actually happened. No kiss, no touch, just words and proximity. Yet I felt more guilty than if I'd actually slept with someone, because I wanted him. I hated admitting it, even to myself. But I wanted Damien in a way that was visceral and consuming. Wanted to know what would have happened if that moment had continued. Wanted to feel his hands on me, his mouth on mine, his complete attention focused on me without the barrier of friendship and marriage between us. And every time I thought about what I wanted, I thought about Emma, my best friend of 12 years, the person who'd held me when my mother died, who'd been there for every major moment of my adult life, who trusted me completely, who never questioned my presence in her life and her marriage. The guilt was crushing, made worse by the fact that I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Who could I tell? Not Emma, obviously. Not our mutual friends, who would be horrified. Not my therapist, who I'd stopped seeing 2 years ago because I thought I had my life figured out. I was trapped in this spiral of desire and guilt, unable to move forward or back. Emma's texts became more insistent. "Are you avoiding me? Did I do something wrong? You've canceled on me 4 times in 3 weeks." I felt like the worst person alive. My best friend thought she'd done something to upset me when the reality was so much worse. I was avoiding her because I couldn't stop thinking about her husband. Finally, Emma showed up at my apartment unannounced on a Saturday morning, holding coffee and bagels with an expression that meant she wasn't leaving without answers. "We're talking," she announced, pushing past me into my living room. "No more excuses, no more avoidance. What the hell is going on with you?" "Nothing," I lied. "I've just been busy." "Bullshit." Emma set down the coffee with more force than necessary. "I've known you for 12 years, Liv. I know when something's wrong. So tell me, is it work? Family? Health? Because I'm your best friend and you're shutting me out and it's killing me." The genuine hurt in her voice broke something in me. She thought she'd done something wrong. Thought I was pulling away because of her. when the truth was so much more devastating. "It's not you," I said quietly. "It's never been you." "Then what?" I couldn't tell her. But I also couldn't keep lying. So I tried something in between, a partial truth that might explain my distance without destroying everything. "I've been struggling," I said carefully, "with being single, with watching you have this perfect life, the marriage, the kids, the stability, while I'm still alone at 34. And I know that's selfish and I'm happy for you, but sometimes being around your happiness makes me feel my own lack more acutely." It wasn't entirely a lie. I had struggled with those feelings, just not recently, and not in a way that explained my current behavior. But Emma's face softened immediately. "Oh, Liv, why didn't you tell me? I've been so caught up in work and kids that I haven't even asked about your dating life in months." "Because it's not your problem," I said. "It's mine, and I'm dealing with it. I just needed some space to figure things out." "Well, stop isolating yourself." Emma pulled me into a hug. "You're my person. Whatever you're going through, we go through together. That's how this works." I hugged her back, feeling the weight of my betrayal like a physical thing. She thought I was struggling with being single. She had no idea I was struggling with wanting her husband. "I have an idea," Emma pulled back, her face brightening. "Damien's birthday is next weekend. We're having a small party, just close friends, dinner and drinks at the house. Come, be social. Remember that you're loved and valued and not alone even if you're single." My stomach dropped. "I don't know if that's a good idea." "It's an excellent idea," Emma insisted. "Plus, Damien specifically asked if you'd be there. He said you two had a good conversation last time and he wanted to continue it." Of course he did, because Damien was either completely insane or trying to torture me. "I'll think about it," I hedged. "You'll come," Emma said firmly. "Because you're my best friend and I miss you, and I'm not letting you hide in your apartment feeling sorry for yourself when you could be surrounded by people who love you." She left an hour later, satisfied that we'd repaired whatever damage she thought my isolation had caused. And I was left alone again with the knowledge that in 7 days, I'd have to see Damien. Have to look him in the eye, knowing what he'd said, knowing what I felt, knowing that Emma was watching us both with the trust of someone who had no idea her marriage and her friendship were built on a fault line. I should have said no, should have invented any excuse to avoid that party, but part of me, the self-destructive, desire-driven part, wanted to see him again, wanted to know if that moment had been real or if I'd built it up in my head, wanted to test whether I could be around him and maintain appropriate boundaries, or if proximity would destroy my carefully maintained control. So, I said yes. I agreed to go to Damien's birthday party, and I tried not to think about what that choice said about the person I was becoming. Part 4. The Reckoning. The party was exactly what Emma had promised. Intimate, casual, about 15 people spread between their living room and back deck. Friends from their climbing gym, neighbors, a few colleagues. The kind of gathering where everyone knew everyone, and conversation flowed easily. I arrived late, deliberately, hoping to blend into an already established event rather than face those awkward early moments. Emma greeted me with a hug and a glass of wine, pulling me immediately into a conversation with her coworkers about the challenges of returning to work after maternity leave. Damien was on the deck, grilling. I could see him through the window, laughing at something someone said, completely in his element. He hadn't seen me arrive yet, and I took advantage of that to study him from a distance. He looked good, too good, relaxed and happy in a way that made my chest ache. This was the man Emma got to see every day, the man who came home to her every night, the man I had no right to want. As if sensing my gaze, Damien looked up. Our eyes met through the window. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled, a small, private smile that made my heart race, and raised his beer in acknowledgement. I looked away first, focusing on the conversation around me, pretending I was fully engaged in a discussion about childcare options, when really all I could think about was the man on the deck. An hour passed. I successfully avoided direct interaction with Damien, staying in whichever room he wasn't in, timing my bathroom trips to when he was occupied elsewhere. It was exhausting and probably obvious, but Emma was too busy hosting to notice. Then Emma announced it was cake time, and everyone crowded into the dining room to sing happy birthday. I positioned myself at the back of the crowd, as far from Damien as possible while still participating. We sang. Damien blew out candles with theatrical flair, making a show of his wish. Everyone clapped. Emma kissed him, and I looked away, hating the spike of jealousy that shot through me. Speech, someone called out. Damien laughed. What am I, accepting an award? It's just a birthday. 35 is a milestone, Emma insisted. Say something profound. Damien's eyes scanned the room, landing on me for a fraction of a second before moving on. Okay, fine. Here's something. The older I get, the more I realize that the most important thing in life is honesty. Being real, not hiding who you are or what you want because you're afraid of what people will think. Several people nodded in agreement. Emma beamed at him, clearly proud of her philosopher husband. But I felt like I'd been punched, because that speech wasn't generic wisdom. It was directed at me, a message wrapped in acceptable platitudes. The party continued. People ate cake, drank more wine. Conversations fragmented into smaller groups. I escaped to the kitchen under the guise of helping clean up. I was loading the dishwasher when Damien appeared in the doorway. You've been avoiding me all night, he said without preamble. I've been socializing, I countered, not looking at him. Like a normal guest. Socializing in whichever room I'm not in. Very smooth. What do you want, Damien? I turned to face him, keeping the island between us. You want me to act normal? Fine. Happy birthday. Great party. Now please go back to your guests. I want 5 minutes of honesty, Damien said. That's all. 5 minutes where we're not pretending that conversation didn't happen, where we're not avoiding what's right in front of us. There's nothing in front of us except your marriage to my best friend, I said firmly. That moment, whatever it was a mistake, and it can't happen again. Can't or shouldn't. Both. Damien moved around the island, closing the distance between us. I backed up until I hit the counter. Tell me you haven't thought about it. About me. About what I said. Of course I've thought about it, I said, frustrated. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, but thinking about something doesn't make it right, doesn't make it possible. You're married to Emma, my best friend, the same friend who's in the next room trusting us to behave like adults. I know, Damien's voice dropped. I know it's wrong. I know it's impossible. I know I'm asking for something I have no right to ask for. But Liv, I can't stop feeling what I feel. Can't stop wanting what I want. Can't stop thinking that maybe, in some other universe where I met you first, we'd be... But you didn't meet me first, I interrupted. You met Emma. You married Emma. You have kids with Emma. She loves you. She trusts you. She trusts me. And what you're asking would destroy all of that. I'm not asking for anything, Damien said. I'm just telling you the truth. The thing I said in my speech, about honesty being the most important thing, I meant it. I'm tired of hiding how I feel. Tired of pretending I don't notice every time you walk into a room. Tired of wondering if you feel the same things I feel. And what good does this honesty do? I asked, my voice breaking. What do you want me to say, Damien? That yes, I think about you? That yes, I feel things I shouldn't feel? That yes, that moment 3 weeks ago has been replaying in my head on an endless loop? Fine. Yes to all of it. But nothing changes. Nothing can change. It already changed, Damien said quietly. The moment we acknowledged it out loud, everything changed. We can't pretend we don't feel this anymore. We have to, I insisted, because the alternative is destroying Emma, and I won't do that. I love her too much. I love her too, Damien said. That's what makes this so fucking impossible. I love my wife. I love my life. I don't want to hurt her, but I also can't unfeel what I feel for you. We stood there, 2 feet apart, the weight of everything unsaid and now said hanging between us like a living thing. What do we do? I whispered. I don't know, Damien admitted, but we have to figure it out, because pretending this doesn't exist isn't working. And I think we need to tell Emma. My blood ran cold. What? Not about feelings, Damien clarified quickly, but about the tension between us, about the fact that we need to create distance. Give Emma a reason that makes sense, that I've been inappropriate, that I make you uncomfortable, something that lets you step back from our friendship without her blaming you. You want me to tell Emma that you make me uncomfortable? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's your solution? Blow up your marriage to create distance? I want to tell her myself, Damien corrected. I'll tell her I crossed a line, made you uncomfortable, that I understand if you need space from us. She'll be angry at me, but she'll understand why you've been distant. And it gives us the distance we need to figure out what this is. Or we could just never be alone again, I suggested desperately. We could maintain appropriate boundaries like normal people. We could bury this and move on. Could we? Damien's eyes searched mine. Could you really move on? Pretend this conversation didn't happen? See me with Emma and feel nothing? The answer was no. But I couldn't say that out loud. Liv, Damien started. There you are. Emma's voice cut through the tension like a knife. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, smiling, oblivious. People are asking for the birthday boy. And Liv, are you okay? You look flushed. I'm fine, I managed. Just warm. Kitchen's hot. Well, come outside and cool off, Emma said cheerfully. And Damien, your climbing buddy, wants to know if you're doing that competition in Boulder next month. Damien's eyes held mine for one more second. Then he smiled at Emma. Coming. They left together, Emma's hand in his, and I leaned against the counter, my whole body shaking. This couldn't continue. Something had to give. Either I had to walk away from Emma's friendship completely, or Damien and I had to find a way to kill whatever this was between us. But as I watched them through the window, Emma laughing at something Damien said, Damien's arm around her waist, I knew the truth. Walking away wouldn't make the wanting stop, and I had no idea how to kill something that felt this alive. Epilogue. The choice. I left the party an hour later, citing an early morning commitment. Emma hugged me goodbye, made me promise not to disappear again. Damien watched from across the room but didn't approach. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't seen either of them since. But I can't stop thinking about Damien, about what he said, about the impossible situation we've created, about the choice I know I have to make. I can choose Emma, choose loyalty, friendship, the right thing, cut contact with both of them, walk away from 15 years of history to protect myself and her from this destructive attraction. Or I can choose honesty, tell Emma everything, confess my feelings, accept the consequences, and let her decide whether our friendship can survive the betrayal of my wanting her husband. Or I can choose Damien. Actually pursue this thing between us, see where it goes. Accept that it means losing Emma and probably destroying his marriage. None of these choices are good. All of them hurt someone. But doing nothing, continuing this limbo of wanting and guilt and avoidance, is slowly destroying me. My therapist, yes, I started seeing one again, says that forbidden attraction isn't rare, that it doesn't make me a terrible person, that what matters is what I do with it. But knowing that intellectually doesn't make the guilt easier to bear, doesn't make the wanting less consuming, doesn't solve the fundamental problem that I've fallen for my best friend's husband, and I don't know how to fall back out. Damien texted me yesterday. First direct contact in 2 weeks. Just 3 words. We need to talk. I haven't responded, because I don't know what to say. Don't know what I want him to say. All I know is that moment in the kitchen changed everything. Made me someone I don't recognize. Someone who lies to her best friend. Someone who entertains fantasies about destroying a marriage. Someone who can't control her own desires. I didn't ask for this feeling. Didn't want it. But it exists now. Undeniable and consuming. And soon, very soon, I'm going to have to decide what to do about it. The problem is, I'm terrified of every possible choice. Because in the end, whatever I choose, someone gets hurt. Emma gets hurt. Damien gets hurt. I get hurt. There's no version of this story where everyone walks away whole, and that might be the most insane part of all. The end.